Here.
Nikki.
Here.
Sarah. Here. Phillips. Here. Hensley.
Here.
Bradford.
Here.
Tatum.
Here.
Lemings.
Here.
Bass.
Here.
All present.
We had emailed to you. Well, before that, let's see, we have the agenda. Do we have any agenda items that we need to entertain?
Yeah, I'd like to, if you would please, on the four resolutions, since they're all exactly the same thing, just about, before we read those, just read by title only.
Would you like to accept those as a group?
Yes, I'd like to accept them as a group also.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion by Dale Holt and a second by Sarah Brown to entertain the resolutions in one bulk group by title only. They're all just authorizations to apply for a grant through Black River Planning and Development. Any other discussion? All those in favor of taking care of the resolutions in that manner signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. You had well, we also have a couple of gentlemen here who would like to address us and ask a couple of questions at the appropriate time. Do I hear a motion to allow those gentlemen to approach the court?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. We have a motion by Bass and a second by Mary Phillips to let these gentlemen approach the court. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. You had emailed to you minutes from the last meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So be it.
Have a motion to approve by Dale Holt, second by Justice Hensley, to accept the minutes of the last meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Treasurer's report, do I hear a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve as written.
Second.
We have a motion by Tatum, second by Justice Nikki Brown, to approve the treasurer's report. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You were emailed a copy of the appropriations analysis. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Virgil Lemings, second by Sarah Brown to approve the appropriation analysis. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You were emailed a copy of the county road and equipment report. Do I have any questions on that? Okay, county judge's comments. I guess you've seen down the hall that we're trying to mitigate some water damage. We had a water line burst and we had some damage here at the annex. It's covered by insurance. The plumber is on us. The rest of it is on our insurance companies. It could be much, much worse. If we'd like to wallow in a little bit of self-pity because we had a little bit of damage, go to Judge Kathy Harton Harrison's page, the Miller County Judge. They have a 5-story courthouse with a basement. They had 6 inches of water on their top floor. It all went south. Estimated property damage of $15 million. So we got off very good.
Was this, I'm assuming, for being pros?
It is. And what happened, we left water dripping in different parts of the building. And we had sent out the message for all of our properties to leave water dripping. Well, I was up here every day, even though the courthouse was closed, made sure the water was dripping. When that old part of the hospital in that back wing was demolished, those lines were just capped off. So they were just sitting there with still water in them, and who knew? We found out the hard way. So our plumber did cut those back to the source, to the main lines. The sheriff's report was laid on the desk, and he had a prior commitment. Is there any question about that? Are there any elected officials who would like to address the court? Court, is there any questions you might have for any of the elected officials or department heads? Okay. That brings us up to the gentlemen who are visiting with us tonight, and they have a question or two to ask the court. The floor is yours.
Okay, a couple of things I want you to know that out on Banner Mountain,
Sir.
Roy Clark
Thanks.
and Dan Beauty. Out on Banner Mountain, you gotta go up Field Road or Banner Mountain Road to get there. And Judge, I want you and all of you on the court to know that we truly appreciate you getting there and getting the snow and ice off that, because every time it ices, sleets, snows, that's the only access to the fire station. And EMS people couldn't get up there, so it's very critical. And you guys took care of it,
Thank you.
and we want you to know.
Thank you.
A number of them have talked to them about it. Another, I guess just questions is probably, well, at least what I want to answer, or questions to ask. Last week in the Voice, there was quite a lengthy article in there. Is that article accurate, as best the court can determine? Are there any inaccuracies in that report related to the hospital?
I'd like to refer that to our prosecuting attorney. Have you read that article?
I don't know that I've read the entire article. I do have the legislative audit report, and that is currently being reviewed, just like all legislative audit reports are for Faulkner, Van Buren, and Searcy counties by my office. And so when that review is completed, the processes that I would then have a communication with legislative audit about what my findings are, and then that would be a public record that anybody would have access to. The only decision that I have to make is if there's a criminal charge that stems from the file that's provided to me from legislative audit. So I don't know that that will answer whatever your particular question is, but that's the procedure. But I can't get into really to the details of it until I'm done with the review.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did the audit request any investigation
Did
on the
the,
part of the court or your office?
did the audit request an investigation?
Yes.
So the audit, so I don't want to speak for legislative audit, but they conduct their own investigation as far as compiling information. If there's county funds that, in their opinion, potentially were maybe used in a way they shouldn't have been. Doesn't mean they always are, but it gets referred to legislative audit that way. And then if the prosecutor's office thinks that there needs to be some more of an investigation, then I can make that request. And that's in any legislative audit, not just in this one. Yeah.
Okay.
Whether that be additional information from legislative audit, which sometimes we do have to request, or different documentation, or if there's a law enforcement agency that would need, in our opinion, would need to conduct additional interviews, for example, or that sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, according to the article, it seemed to be that there's some conflict of interest, and I know the hospital is wanting more money, more tax money, and it showed quite a profit there, even though I understand it's a 501c3, which is supposed to be a nonprofit organization. And some parties listed in the article, I wonder if that is not a conflict of interest of serving on the Board of Governors, and the board positions. That's my question also. Is that being investigated or checked out or what?
So I think at least the part of the article that I saw frames what the issues are, or some of the issues that are contained in the legislative audit report. Of course, legislative audit report is public record, so anybody can look at that. I think all the court members, I'm sure, have received it, and they always do. But I briefly skimmed the article. I don't want to give an opinion based on the newspaper article. But as far as the legislative audit report that's come to our office, that what you're talking about is contained at least partially in that report. So we will review everything that's in the legislative audit report, I guess is my answer to that.
Okay. So the Quorum Court will get a report of that, or what?
So
Once you evaluate. will it have a recommendation or what? Or is it just a report?
Right, so my decision, the prosecutor's office decision will be, is there a criminal charge stemming from evidence presented, information presented from the legislative audit? And that's true in all legislative audits, not just this one. But what my findings are will be detailed in some kind of a report that would be public record, and I certainly would be happy to report that to the Quorum Court if the court wanted to hear that, sure. And anybody
Yes.
else, you can call me talking about it.
Is a conflict of interest a criminal issue?
A conflict of interest?
Yes. And,
Generally, no. In what way?
well, would it be a civil liability? I mean,
It could be a
apparently
civil
the
liability,
court-
and that's what the auditor.
The court has been paying out several $1,000s. And, it just appeared in the article, asking for more money when there's only seemingly 2 or 3 parties that's been involved in the hospital over the last several years. But they're wanting more money, but yet they show $1 million profit. That don't add up to a nonprofit organization. 501c3, I've been involved with them for years, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, I think without going into the details of this necessarily, since it's still under investigation, I would feel confident saying, generally speaking, the type of conflict of interest that you've described is not a criminal offense. I think that would be.
But civil liability could be a
It
sin.
certainly could. Certainly could. But it's not I don't know of any criminal statute that would violate. Yeah.
It's not criminal than civil.
Well, I'm not saying it does violate,
If-
I'm not saying it does, but, and I think that the legislative audit report, when they talk about, which what I'm assuming you're referring to, the headline of the article, referring for counsel is in the civil realm, not in the criminal realm. Yeah. And that's why legislative audit reports very rarely, in my experience, very rarely do end up with criminal charges, because it's usually, in general, I'm not talking about this instance, but it's usually funds were used in a way they shouldn't have been, but it wasn't any sort of intentional theft or embezzlement or those sorts of things that are criminal offenses. There's usually no criminal intent, which you have to have, for us to prosecute.
Well, Your Honor, the judge.
Yes, sir.
What is the court's assessment of the hospital situation?
Okay. I'll answer that, and then I think that pretty much would satisfy the questions. The court's assessment is, it's been turned over to the prosecutor, so it's time for us to be quiet and let the prosecutor do their job.
Yeah, and I think in the interest of accounting, I think at this point, because it is under investigation, I think that Judge James is right not to comment on that particularly publicly until the investigation runs its course. So that would be my legal advice for him at this point as well, on behalf of the county.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
And this has nothing to do with the prosecutor. Number one, was there ever an ordinance passed to relinquish this money to Ozark or to these companies? Was there ever an ordinance passed?
There wasn't a particular ordinance, but that is pretty much what the hospital maintenance fund is for. It did get spent for hospital maintenance
To a
purposes.
point.
To a point.
Not excessive. 1414-1102 says, in large amounts like that, it has to be passed by the county, which is the Quorum Court.
And, we're also, if a debt is incurred by the county, the debt must be paid. This is the same issue that stems back to 2018. And before I was in office, I think even before you were on the court,
Yeah.
it keeps resurfacing because it took a while for that to get paid off. So because those checks were written each subsequent year, it kept rearing its ugly head. So it should be behind us, I think.
My second question is, Were there bids taken? You should have
I
record of
believe,
those
I
two
believe
questions.
that is answered in the legislative audit. That's one of the reasons why it's turned over to Carol,
Okay.
because bids were not taken.
The bids were not taken.
Right.
Okay. And there was no ordinance. That's two
I have a hard time hearing
stipulations.
Mr. Bass. What was that?
Arkansas Annotated Code 1414-1102 states that there has to be a bid taken to relinquish those monies. And also that, or bid taken to get the job, but then also there has to be an ordinance by the Quorum Court to relinquish those monies to those companies.
Wouldn't that be covered in the annual?
That would, I think what we're confusing is, you know how a couple of months ago we did the sunshine ordinances when we had, like Joe Sochi does radio work, but he's also our coroner, and we had to shed some sunlight on that. That was the ordinance that was failed to run, was a sunshine ordinance, because we had a contractor that was already, I'll probably say too much, I need to just shut up about that, but yeah. Yeah, we should run a sunshine ordinance on that.
When you reach that amount of money though, it has to be okayed by the county, which is the court. And,
That's a matter of Carol.
Yeah, I mean, so those two issues, Mr. Bass, are two of the issues contained, I'm sure you have it, in the legislative audit finding that was sent to me. So those are part and parcel of what we're reviewing.
okay. You will let us know. what that-
Absolutely, yes, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Let's move on to new business. Our first ordinance is sponsored by Justice Holt.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County Commissioner, State of Arkansas, emergency ordinance entitled, an emergency ordinance to amend the Van Buren County personnel policy for the purpose of amending the catastrophic leave policy to declare an emergency and for other purposes. Whereas there is a need to amend the personnel policy to remove the 6-month minimum length of service to apply for catastrophic leave for purposes related to COVID-19. And whereas Van Buren County has a structure in place with the existing catastrophic leave bank to properly administer repayment pay to qualifying individuals. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that Section 1, COVID-19 quarantines are a just cause to request time from the catastrophic leave bank. Number 2, 6-month continuous employment clause of Section G, Part A, Number 2, shall be waived for the purpose of COVID-19 related requests while Arkansas is under a state of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Number 3, requests for the catastrophic leave bank shall not automatically convey as approval, and all other requirements of the catastrophic leave policy shall remain in full effect. Section 2, this ordinance being necessary for the protection and preservation of public health and safety, an emergency is hereby declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be enforced and shall take effect upon passage of publication. I move to pass this ordinance.
I have a motion by Holt, a second by Justice Phillips to adopt this ordinance. Discussion. Roll call.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah. Yes. Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Lemings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2021-05.
Okay, and I would like to go ahead, since we just read that once, do I hear a motion that we approve the emergency clause on this ordinance?
I recommend we approve the emergency clause.
It's been motion second that we read into the minutes, we approve approve the emergency clause on this ordinance. Any discussion on the emergency clause? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Our next ordinance is sponsored by Justice Tatum.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, an appropriation ordinance to amend the original appropriation ordinance 2020-42 the annual operating budget for 2021 to increase the projected revenue and appropriate $1,415.84 excuse me, into the sheriff's office budget, number 1000-400. Whereas Van Buren County Sheriff's Office has received a refund of $415.84 from the prosecutor's office for hotel stay during training. And whereas $415.84 will need to be appropriated into the sheriff's budget 1000-400-3094 meal lodging. And Van Buren County Sheriff's Office has received a mini grant from Blue and You Foundation in the amount of $1,000 for the Stop the Bleed program. And whereas $1,000 will need to be appropriated in the sheriff's budget 1000-400-3103 grants. Now therefore it be ordained by the Quorum Court, Van Buren County, Arkansas, that section 1, $415.84 be appropriated into number 1000-400-3094 meals and lodging. Section 2, 1000 be appropriated into number 1000-400-3103 grants for the Van Buren County Sheriff's Office. I move we approve as written.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Justice Tatum, a second by Justice Lemings. Any discussion?
Is anybody here from the Sheriff's Office?
Not tonight.
I just want to tell everybody about this, brief everybody on this grant from Blue and You Foundation. This is going to allow 12 officers to participate in a class. Basically, it's a trauma class. It's a EMS trauma class. It's also going to allow them to get some gear that they have to use in trauma situations that they use all the time. I did talk to the sheriff on that. It's an excellent opportunity, but it's going to allow 12 of them to get the equipment that they have to have carry in their car with them. So I think it's an excellent deal.
Justice Tatum, is this the Stop the Bleed class?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemings,
Yes.
Pass.
Yes.
2021-06.
Thank you. Let's see, Justice Hensley, would you care to read the titles of the next four resolutions?
Resolution authorizing the judge of Van Buren County, Arkansas to submit an application to the Arkansas Economic Development Commission for a community development project. A resolution authorizing the judge of Van Buren County, Arkansas to submit an application to the Arkansas Economic Development Commission for a coronavirus-related project. A resolution authorizing the judge of Van Buren County, Arkansas to submit an application to the Arkansas Economic Development Commission for a coronavirus-related project. A resolution authorizing the judge of Van Buren County, Arkansas to enter into an administrative agreement with the White River Planning and Development District Incorporated.
Do I hear a motion to approve the resolutions? We have a motion by Justice Holt, a second by Justice Phillips to approve the resolutions. Is there any discussion on any of the resolutions? All those in favor of approving the resolutions signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Do we have any other discussion before we adjourn? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Anyone opposed?